Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next hour. Syria's rebels work to form government after Bashar al-Assad's ouster. Taiwan raises alert as China deploys largest naval fleet in 3 decades to region. Donald Trump nominates Indian-American lawyer Harmeet K. Dhillon as Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. And Google unveils new quantum computing chip, claims it will solve a computing problem in 5 minutes that would take world's fastest supercomputer 10 septillion years. We'll start with Syria. It faces a historic turning point after the dramatic fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime. Rebels are taking steps towards a transitional government. Regional powers like Turkey and Israel are reacting, and world leaders warn of potential instability. While Syrians celebrate freedom, the challenge of rebuilding has just begun.
The Assad regime has fallen, but Syria remains gripped by anxiety as multiple powers vie for influence. The power vacuum in Syria is more pronounced in various parts of the nation which are under the control of different factions. Israel sent troops into a buffer zone on the east of the Israeli-annexed Golan Heights, though Tel Aviv maintains that its actions are limited to protecting its own security.
We are taking all the actions necessary to try to ensure our security with regard to the new situation created in Syria. And the State of Israel is establishing its position as a center of power in our region as it has not been for the decades. Those who cooperate with us benefit greatly. Those who attack us lose big. We want to see a different Syria both for our benefit and for the benefit of the people of Syria.
World powers are also expressing concern. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has warned of a possible ISIS resurgence, but assured that the US is committed to preventing it.
The end of this regime is a defeat for all who enabled its barbarity and its corruption, none more than Iran, Hezbollah, and Russia. So this moment presents a historic opportunity, but it also carries considerable risks. History shows how quickly moments of promise can descend into conflict and violence. ISIS will try to use this period to reestablish its capabilities, to create safe havens. As our precision strikes over the weekend demonstrate, we are determined not to let that happen.
The changing security situation has altered the diplomatic scenario too. Even as Turkey has reopened border crossings to encourage Syrian refugees to return. Many European nations, including Germany and France, have temporarily frozen asylum applications. Rebel commander Abu Muhammad al-Golani met with Assad's former Prime Minister Mohammad Jalali and Vice President Faisal Mekdad on Monday to negotiate the transfer of power. The United Nations Security Council held an emergency meeting late Monday where diplomats expressed shock at the rapid collapse of Assad's regime just 12 days after the rebel offensive began. Bashar al-Assad fled to Moscow on Sunday, marking the end of over 50 years of Assad family dominance. For Syrians, the sudden change at helm has rekindled hope of peace and prosperity after 13 years. The war has claimed lives of hundreds of thousands and displaced millions. As Syria navigates the uncertainties at this pivotal moment, the world is also following the developments with keen interest, knowing its future could reshape the region for decades to come. Bureau Report, DD India.
An ousted Syrian President Bashar al-Assad is not the first autocratic leader to have been forced to flee his country. There have been other leaders in recent past who had to flee their respective countries while in power, due to political turmoil.
Tunisia, Zine El Abidine Ben Ali. After weeks of protest sparked in December 2010, Ali fled on January 14, 2011 for Saudi Arabia, ending 23 years in power. Ben Ali died in exile in Saudi Arabia in 2019. Zaire, now Democratic Republic of Congo, Mobutu Sese Seko. On May 16, 1997, Seko went into exile after receiving an ultimatum to step down. Mobutu had smothered all opposition and wrecked the economy. He died shortly afterwards on September 7, 1997, in Morocco of prostate cancer. Haiti, Jean Claude Duvalier. Duvalier proclaimed himself president for life, installing a regime of terror. He went into exile in February 1986 following a popular uprising over the human rights abuses. He lived in France for 25 years, returning to Haiti in 2011, where he died 3 years later. Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos. Marcos in 1986 fled to US exile amid a bloodless military backed popular uprising that ended his 20 years in power. He died in exile in 1989. Uganda, Idi Amin Dada. Amin seized power in Uganda in 1971. He brutally suppressed all opposition during his 8 year reign of terror, resulted in the deaths of an estimated 300,000 people. Overthrown in a 1979 coup, he died in exile in Saudi Arabia in 2003. Iran, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. He acceded to the throne in 1941, was accused of authoritarianism. He was criticized for his modernist reforms. He fled in 1979 after months of protests. He lived in exile in Morocco, Bahamas, Mexico, US, and Panama, dying in Egypt in 1980.
And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is set to testify on Tuesday for the first time in his ongoing corruption trial. He is facing charges of bribery, fraud and breach of trust in 3 separate criminal cases. In 2019, Netanyahu was indicted with all these charges, but he denied all the charges and pleaded not guilty. At this point of time, the trial will take up a chunk of Netanyahu's time at a crucial point for Israel when there is multiple threat from the wider West Asia. And Russia is advancing towards its military objectives in Ukraine and maintains strategic control across all fronts, according to Russia's foreign intelligence chief Sergei Narishkin on Tuesday. Russia's spy chief stated that the situation on the front is not in Kiev's favor. He emphasized that the strategic initiative in all areas belongs to Russia, signaling Moscow's confidence in its military positioning. And a day after Donald Trump claimed that Kiev is ready to make a deal with Moscow to stop the conflict, Ukrainian president is now focusing on developing a joint position that would hold strong both in negotiations and on the battlefield. On Monday, Zelensky made the case for a diplomatic settlement, saying such a resolution would save more lives. He also floated the idea of foreign troops being deployed to Ukraine until the country joins the NATO military alliance. And even as talks continue for diplomatic solution to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Zelensky is trying to strengthen his position in the conflict. On Monday, he issued orders to increase funding for equipping the country's brigades with new drones, for which he has instructed the Prime Minister to increase financing for brigades in the coming days to increase several times over. Now in Georgia, protests have entered the 12th day following the government's decision to delay the former Soviet country's bid to join the European Union. The EU ambassador to Georgia condemned police brutality against demonstrators, calling it unacceptable, and warned European Union may impose sanctions. He added Brussels could present a sanctions package on December 16. The decision outraged many in the South Caucasus country, where the idea of EU accession is popular. Over 100 serving Georgian diplomats signed an open letter criticizing the government's move, and several Georgian ambassadors resigned their posts. Scores of demonstrators and dozens of police officers have been injured, and at least 300 people have been arrested since November 28. And South Korean parliament has passed a bill to request special counsel to investigate martial law case. Earlier, President Yoon Suk-yeol apologized for his botched attempt to impose martial law and said he was leaving his political and legal fate to his party but has not resigned. He has been banned from leaving the country. While Yoon survived an impeachment vote in parliament on Saturday, his party's decision to delegate presidential authority to the Prime Minister has plunged the key US ally into a constitutional crisis. And despite the serious demand for Yoon's removal, K-pop-infused protests have gone viral on social media. Tens of thousands of demonstrators braving near sub-zero temperatures have gathered outside the National Assembly. And in a significant and alarming development, the Taiwanese Defense Ministry said that China is deploying its largest Navy fleet in the region, including around Taiwan, in nearly 3 decades, with the threat level more severe than previous Chinese military exercises around the island. Senior Ministry Intelligence Officer Xie Zhisheng said that China had nearly 90 Navy and Coast Guard ships near Taiwan, and 47 military aircraft were detected operating around the island over the past 24 hours. He further added that so far there have been no live fire drills in China's 7 reserved airspace zones, 2 of which are in the Taiwan Strait.
This number of China Navy and Coast Guard ships in the region was indeed very alarming, and how they are scattered is beyond the eastern border of Taiwan between the first and the second island chain. I think China's intention is very clear.
And China is expected to launch another round of exercises in response to Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te's trip to the Pacific, which included stopovers in Hawaii and the U.S. territory of Guam. Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department said it was closely monitoring Chinese military activities near Taiwan. Now, Sri Lanka's President Anura Kumara Dissanayake will embark on an official tour to India on Sunday. Cabinet spokesman Minister Nalinda Jayetsa told the media on Tuesday that during the 3-day tour, President Dissanayake will engage in discussions with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other high-ranking officials. Minister Jayetsa went on to note that Dissanayake will be accompanied by Sri Lanka's Foreign Minister Vijita Herath and Deputy Minister of Finance Dr. Harshana Surya Peruma. Now, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh interacted with the members of the Indian community during his visit to Russia, celebrating the strong cultural ties and contributions of Indians abroad. In his interaction, the Defence Minister appreciated the contributions of Indian diaspora and highlighted India's growth trajectory. And students of the Embassy of India School in Moscow and Russian artists presented colourful cultural performances. Rajnath Singh will co-chair the 21st meeting of India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission on Military and Military Technical Cooperation in Moscow today. All right, we are slipping into a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Haiti condemns brutal massacre targeting voodoo practitioners, nearly 200 killed. New Zealand to ban greyhound racing over animal welfare.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. US President-elect Donald Trump has nominated Indian-American lawyer Harmeet K. Dhillon as Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the US Department of Justice. Donald Trump praised Harmeet Dhillon as a prominent election lawyer, recognizing her dedication to safeguarding election integrity and defending constitutional and civil rights. Dhillon was subject to racial attack after she recited Ardas at the Republican National Convention in July this year. Last year, she unsuccessfully ran for the position of Republican National Committee chairmanship. Dhillon joins a growing number of Indian Americans on Trump's 2.0 cabinet, including Vivek Ramaswamy and Kashyap Patel. Now, two of Donald Trump's nominees, Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard, sought support from U.S. senators on Monday, though it remained uncertain whether they would get the near-unanimous Republican backing they will need to win confirmation. Former Fox News personality Hegseth held a second meeting with Senator Johnny Ernst. Afterwards, she said the nominee had committed to completing a Pentagon audit. Hegseth faces concerns about allegations of misconduct in his professional and personal life, though Trump has kept his support strongly behind Hegseth, predicting he will be confirmed. And former Representative Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's choice for Director of National Intelligence, arrived for a Senate meeting as the abrupt fall on Sunday of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad prompted renewed scrutiny of her 2017 visit to Damascus. Her selection sent shockwaves through the national security establishment, adding to concerns that the intelligence community would become increasingly political. Trump's fellow Republicans will hold only a slim 53-47 Senate majority next year, meaning nominees can afford just 3 Republican numbers and still be confirmed if Democrats unite against them. Now, in Haiti's capital, around 200 people were killed over the weekend after attacks that an NGO said were ordered by a gang leader who suspected his child had been made ill using witchcraft. Haiti's Prime Minister's office strongly condemned the killing and said in a statement that a red line has been crossed, adding it would mobilize all forces to track down and annihilate those responsible, including the gang leader. Meanwhile, American Airlines has indefinitely suspended all flights to Haiti amid growing safety concerns and rising tensions. The United Nations spokesperson said that UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres condemned gang violence and loss of life in Haiti and has called on the Haitian authorities to conduct a thorough investigation and ensure that perpetrators are brought to justice.
The Secretary General expresses his deepest sympathy and condolences to the families of the victims of this horrific act. The Secretary General calls on the Haitian authorities to conduct a thorough investigation and ensure that perpetrators to these and all other human rights abuses and violations are brought to justice. The Secretary General reiterates once again his pressing call to member states to provide the multinational security support mission the financial and the logistical support required to successfully assist the Haitian National Police in addressing gang violence.
Now, Ghana's Electoral Commission declared ex-president and main opposition leader John Dramani Mahama winner of Saturday's presidential election with 56.55% of the votes. Mahama's main rival, Vice President and ruling party presidential candidate Mahamudu Bawumia, already conceded defeat in both presidential and legislative elections to ease tensions. Mahama is making a comeback after serving as Ghana's president from 2012 to 2016. Mahama pledged governance reforms and measures to reset the nation in a victory speech after winning presidential election, cementing his return to power after 8 years leading the country's opposition. Now, first Sherpa Finance and Central Bank deputies meeting began in Johannesburg on Monday. International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola officially opened the 4-day G20 Sherpas meeting, confirming Pretoria's readiness to host the G20 summit in 2025. Lamola pointed out that given the current global challenges, G20 must make strides in forging practical, mutually beneficial cooperation that champions an international order that is fairer, just, inclusive and representative. DD India's Nazneen Ismail explains.
Good morning from Johannesburg, where we are present for the first Sherpa's Finance and Central Banks meeting taking place from the 9th to the 12th of December. Sherpa meetings are vital for setting the framework and the tone for the G20 summit, allowing leaders to finalize decisions on critical global issues such as economic growth, climate change, international trade, and social development. The leaders of the world's largest economies of developed and developing countries will get together to finalize solutions on these challenges.
South Africa's presidency will be held under the theme Solidarity, Equality, Sustainability, a theme that seeks to harness global will and capabilities to confront the enormous challenges the world is facing. In the spirit of Ubuntu, our shared humanity, we will address these challenges through our high-level deliverables and priorities, which lie at the core of the original G20 mandate. These include strengthening disaster resilience and response, ensuring debt sustainability for low-income countries, mobilizing finance for a just energy transition, harnessing critical minerals for inclusive growth and development. As part of its efforts to bring the Sherpa and the finance tracks closer together, 3 temporary task forces initiatives and a commission will be established during South Africa's G20 presidency.
And India's G20 Sherpa Amitabh Kant is also in attendance at the Sherpa's meeting at Johannesburg. Nazneen Ismail spoke to the leader about the issues he is expected to raise during the meeting to put forth concerns of the Global South.
So, what are some of the challenges you have faced to take forward India's priorities and objectives?
Well, there are no challenges. We are taking them vigorously forward. India's presidency was very ambitious, it was action-oriented, and it looked at making G20 G21 by including African Union as a member. And by doing that, we've made G20 far more inclusive because we were able to, now G20 takes care of almost 8% of the global population and about 80% of the global GDP. And therefore, India's presidency was based on inclusive, balanced, sustainable, strong growth. Growth is critical. It was also based on achieving sustainable development goals by 2030. We drew up an action plan. India's presidency was aimed at making the global institutions stronger by reforming the multilateral development financial institutions. India's presidency was also based on using technology to leapfrog in a very big way, and also Green Development Pact for climate and sustainable action of the future. And finally, we focused on women-led development for the future. And those priorities are the ones that are being taken forward by both Brazil and by South Africa. We are working together with all these countries.
How do you ensure that the concerns of the Global South are addressed in the G20 discussions, given the dominance of the major global North economies?
So Global South is very critical, and India's presidency demonstrated that when Global South wields the pen, it speaks on behalf of the Global South, and that's why Prime Minister Modi also held 2 meetings, the Voice of the Global South, with all the leaders of the Global South. And our view is that this year almost 70% of the growth is going to come from emerging markets.
What are the key global priorities you believe should be on the agenda in this summit?
So I think South Africa has done well to focus on solidarity, equality and sustainability. Their focus is on new technologies, artificial intelligence. Their focus is on food security, but their focus is also on growth, industrialization. Their focus is on a range of areas which can drive global growth. G20 has a very major role to play in climate action. It must set the agenda like it did during India's presidency.
Fantastic. Sir, I thank you for your time. That was Shri Amitabh Kant, who is currently India's Sherpa for the G20 summit. And I am Nazneen for DD India, Johannesburg.
Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. In an attempt to reconcile people with books, a local print shop in eastern DR Congo is providing books to the younger generation. Books are in general expensive and considered a luxury in the conflict-hit Central African nation. For the youth, there is also a lack of access to books they can relate to. Therefore, the print shop is hoping to address the issue by producing and selling books mainly by local authors at affordable prices. New Zealand will shut down its greyhound racing industry, citing animal welfare concerns and the unacceptably high number of injured and dying dogs. Minister for Racing Winston Peters said the industry would be phased out over the next 20 months, giving trainers the chance to rehome dogs. New Zealand is one of a handful of countries that still permits commercial greyhound racing. Now, a rare Roman coin featuring a portrait of Brutus, the assassin of statesman Julius Caesar, went under the hammer. The rare coin was sold at a Geneva auction for 1.98 million euros. The coin, minted in 4342 BC by Brutus and his supporters, was originally priced at more than 800,000 euros. Now, authorities in US have arrested the man suspected of killing United Health executive Brian Thompson in a brazen shooting outside a Manhattan hotel last week. After a massive 5-day manhunt, the suspect, identified as Luigi Mangione, was captured in Altoona, Pennsylvania, after he was spotted eating at a McDonald's. Now, Google claims to have cracked a key challenge in quantum computing with a new chip capable of almost unfathomable speeds. The tech giant says it can perform one standard test in under 5 minutes, one that would take one of today's fastest supercomputers 10 septillion years, which is 24 zeros after 10, and that's vastly longer than the universe has existed. Google says the results lend credence to theories that quantum computing taps into a multiverse of parallel universes, and it is named Willow. Now, Google says it's found a way to make them more reliable, says it can also correct errors in real time, and that's a big step towards building a practical quantum computer. Now, Google hopes such devices could one day deliver huge advances in fields like AI, climate change and medicines. And the processors are being crafted at a new purpose-built facility in Santa Barbara, California. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour, we'll try to understand about Google's new quantum chip. Detailed discussion after the break. Dhaka and New Delhi express commitment to advance bilateral relationship for mutual benefit. And parliamentarians pay rich tributes to Bharat Ratna Chakravarti Raj Gopalachari.
Goa, a food paradise, both steeped in historical culinary tradition and at the forefront of a modern-day food revolution that is fresher, more local, and more global than ever before. I'm embarking on a journey across the state to explore the very best of food here.
This is honestly my favorite way to eat an egg.
Break bread with some of Goa's most loved chefs and understand what food really means to communities here. Watch Postcards from Goa on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Recap of what we have done so far. Syria's rebels work to form government after Bashar al-Assad's ouster. Taiwan raises alert as China deploys largest naval fleet in 3 decades to the region. Donald Trump nominates Indian-American lawyer Harmeet Kaur Dhillon as Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. Google unveils new quantum computing chip claims it will solve a computing problem in 5 minutes that would take world's fastest supercomputer 10 septillion years. Alright, so Google has made a groundbreaking announcement in the field of quantum computing, and to talk more on Google's new quantum chip, we are joined by IT expert Mr. Prasar Sharma, who's founder and CEO WS. Welcome, sir. Welcome to DD India. Appreciate you giving us your precious time. All are curious to know about this chip, next generation quantum computing chip, Google is calling it. Tell us, what will it do and how is this revolutionary?
That's amazing, and first of all, thanks for having me. So this can change the world in all aspects, like having a chip which can do video analytics for maybe finding errors. In many machines, even, having your broadcast internationally where you just use a chip to, do the buffering and other aspects. So it will change the whole ecosystem, and then it can give a thrust for computing, for anything related to computing which involves in daily life or in a larger ecosystem, including the present problem statements and the future problem statements, and also till like space technologies as well. So it will impact very immensely in all aspects, and it will initiate a new era of competition of creating such kind of chips by other vendors as well.
You're saying new era of competition. I mean, Google says it has achieved a breakthrough in quantum computing with its new chip. Tell us, how big is this, and also in detail, what changes it will bring?
So, like the kind of claim they have mentioned that they can solve a computation which a supercomputer does. And that also we like with a small chip which they named as Velo. So imagine like you have data centers or computer centers or large computer systems for supercomputing, and then that is replaced by just a chip in your arm. So kind of competition you will have. So this will change the whole horizon of any and everything, and it is remarkable. Although it's still announced by Google, but I think it will take time to verify all these claims. But if Google is saying this, so it would be having such merits. So imagine having like your IRCTCs or having so big computing or data centers, and it reduces to just one slack, or maybe a kind of chips which is just like a hard drive kind of thing. So you can take some GPUs as a hard drives, which can create many-fold computations, whether it's which is equivalent to like 2 or 3 or 5 supercomputers. So this can help in health tech, where you are using like various computation for either testing various medicines. It can help in your many electronics items. It can also help in defense and space research and agriculture as well.
Okay, Velo computing, you're saying. I mean, how does it work actually? If you can explain us in detail, where does also India stands in this field?
I think to that level of computation, India still needs to, create capabilities, because this is a very breakthrough and very niche capability which they are claiming. And although we are still working on having GPUs for our own ecosystem, and you see Government of India is doing many efforts. But having such kind of ecosystem or enablers as a chip, which they say in their terminology, chip has 105 qubits with improved error correction. So this is very competitive to like today's fastest supercomputer is 10 septillion, and they are claiming much more than that. So this is a very big claim, and it can change the history of all tech innovations. If this is implementable on a larger scale, like you see what NVIDIA is doing with GPUs, and if Google comes with such kind of things, so all the dependencies of large supercomputer or manufacturing or supply chain will be totally subverted.
Interesting. And also, Mr. Sharma, if we can simplify it for our viewers, what is quantum computing, and also how does it differ from the classical computing?
So normally, in just a very basic terms, quantum computing increases the computing capability. Normally, like in general term, like if you are doing some coding or playing games, so you can see the buffering and all that depends on computing, and you have a large CPU or your laptop which helps in this computing. But on a larger scales, like what they claim is this chip has solved a problem which takes 30 years to solve with the normal computers, because that much of computing is needed. And this chip solved that in just 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So this is the, that's why it is called quantum, because a quantum leap in processing power. And that too with like a chip on a palm. Normally, if you take today's supercomputers, they are large enough in physical ecosystem and the computing aspect as well. But now, just a chip you can enable in any of your ecosystem. Otherwise, supercomputing, you need some networking expert to connect, maybe for your broadcasting things or for your studios. But I mean, imagine you just have a chip which enables like a hard drive, which we can foresee in coming days.
Okay.
So this is what it can change in the whole ecosystem, and which is very, very, I would say, exponential change in terms of computing world.
You're saying it's an exponential change, but I was reading it somewhere, Mr. Sharma. Willow performed a standard benchmark computation in under 5 minutes that would take one of today's fastest supercomputers to septillion years, which is 24 zeros after 10, that is 1025 years. This is incredible. I mean, Google's aim, you think, is to revolutionize computing by achieving speeds far beyond current systems?
It is actually. And the way if you say chip war was going on, and everyone is eager to secure computing power, whether it's corporates or countries. So this will revolutionize, and this will also subvert the supply chain, because if you see in chip war, the supply chain is highly dependent on very few geographies or players, and now Google is coming up with very new innovative thing. And we need to still, compare with the existing ecosystem, especially the GPUs with NVIDIA is highlighting. So a comparative analysis will be there by the market experts or stakeholders. But as per the claim, they are far beyond than the existing any player which is offering such computing.
And very quickly, Mr. Sharma, I mean, the Willow chip is a major step on a journey that began over 10 years ago. What's next with Willow and beyond?
So the next will be, now they have shown their capabilities of computing, and now I think the next they will showcase the applications where it can add value, especially the applications where we were, depending on very big computing, machineries, and it takes longer than normal times, like as you mentioned about like septillion years. So this is what it is bringing. So it will also showcase some applications which previously we think it was impossible, whether it's like computing anything related to other planets and reaching them out, or anything related to cryptocurrency or such kind of algorithmic ecosystem where you need a high dense computing. So they will showcase their applications in next steps.
All All right, Mr. Sharma, interesting discussion. I wanted to ask you about how will it perform AI and climate also, but time is not permitting us, but maybe later we'll have a detailed discussion. We'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Sharma, for giving us your precious time. Now, Human Rights Day is being observed across the globe today. Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi became the center stage for Human Rights Day celebrations organized by the National Human Rights Commission. The event focused on mental well-being, navigating stress from classroom to workplace, and was attended by India's President Draupadi Murmu as the chief guest.
सरकार सभी के लिए आवास, स्वच्छ पेयजल, बेहतर स्वच्छता, बिजली, रसोई गैस और वित्तीय सेवाओं से लेकर स्वास्थ्य सेवा और शिक्षा तक कोई सामाजिक, आर्थिक और सांस्कृतिक अधिकारों की गारंटी भी देती है। यह उल्लेखनीय है कि बुनियादी आवश्यकताओं के प्रावधान को अधिकारों के रूप में देखा जाता है। इस नई सोच का एक बेहतरीन उदाहरण है स्वच्छ भारत मिशन, जो स्वच्छता को एक बुनियादी अधिकार के रूप में मैं देखता हूँ। इस वर्ष 19 नवंबर को विश्व शौचालय दिवस पर भारत ने एक अभियान शुरू किया, हमारा शौचालय हमारा सम्मान।
All right, Indian Parliament updates now. Both houses of the Indian Parliament were adjourned till Wednesday amid ruckus during the proceedings. The Rajya Sabha already saw an adjournment shortly after the proceedings began at 11 a.m. local time. MPs from both sides raised slogans in support of the issues they wanted to raise, forcing Chairman Jagdeep Dhankar to adjourn the proceedings for the day. And Lok Sabha resumed the proceeding with the introduction of the Merchant Shipping Bill 2024. However, Congress MP Manish Tiwari and TMC MP Sugata Ray registered their opposition to the introduction of the bill. Ruckus continued in the House and it was adjourned till Wednesday. Now, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla, Rajya Sabha Deputy Chairman Harivansh Narayan Singh, members of Parliament and other dignitaries paid floral tributes to C. Rajagopalachari, Indian independence activist and the last Governor General of India, in Central Hall, Samvidhan Sadan, on his birth anniversary today. C. Rajagopalachari, founder of the Swatantra Party, was born on December 10, 1878 in Thorapalli village in Madras Presidency. His entry into public life was marked in 1917 when he became the chairperson of the municipality of Salem. Let's take a quick look at his role in India's independence movement. His personal interaction with Mahatma Gandhi in 1919 led him to give up his legal profession to be fully involved in the independence struggle. Mahatma called Rajaji the keeper of my conscience. He participated in agitations against the Rowlatt Act, the non-cooperation movement, the Vaikom Satyagraha and the civil disobedience movement. Rajaji was elected to the Constituent Assembly from Madras on a Congress party ticket. Post-independence, Rajaji served as the last Governor General of India till 1950. He briefly served as Tamil Nadu's Chief Minister between 1952 and 1954. In 1954, he was conferred with Bharat Ratna for his contribution to Indian politics and literature. Conflicts grew deeper between Rajaji and Jawaharlal Nehru. Rajaji formed the Swatantra Party. Swatantra Party aimed to represent centre to right political ideologies. Rajaji was a prolific writer. Popular works include retelling of the Mahabharata and Ramayana in English and Ramayana Chakravarti Thirumagan in Tamil. Now, Dhaka and New Delhi expressed commitment to advance bilateral relationship for mutual benefit in the first high-level official talks held since Bangladesh's political changeover. Bangladesh's Foreign Secretary Mohammad Jashimuddin met India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri on Monday, after which he said Dhaka expected resolution of all unsettled issues, quote-unquote, with India in the quickest possible time. Jashimuddin added that relations with India was historic and both sides agreed to carry it forward in a free, frank and candid discussion. He said during the meeting, India expressed its interest in advancing constructive and positive relations with Bangladesh. However, concerns were raised by India regarding the safety of minority communities and attacks on cultural, religious and diplomatic properties. And civil society members representing more than 200 social and cultural organizations today carried out a protest march to the Bangladesh embassy in India's national capital. The protest was staged against the attack on Hindus and human rights violations in the neighboring country. Tight security deployment was there to prevent any kind of untoward incident. People participating in the protest demanded strict action from the Indian government regarding the violence against Hindu minorities in Bangladesh. Now, Indian Navy and Indian Space Research Organization carried out well-decked recovery trials of crew module for Gaganyaan mission on 6 December. The trials were carried out at Eastern Naval Command using well-decked ship off the coast of Visakhapatnam. This trial is part of the series of recovery trials being carried out by Indian Navy and ISRO to finalize the SOPs for recovery operations. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Shaktikant Das shares final goodbye as he demits RBI office today. Thanks PM Modi, FM, Nirmala Sitharaman and others. Arina Sabalenka receives Women's Tennis Association Player of the Year award for the first time. And Christmas lights bring festive cheer to Lagos. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. The outgoing governor of Reserve Bank of India, Shaktikant Das, reiterated that Indian economy is resilient and robust with capacity to deal with global spillovers very effectively. Addressing his concluding press conference as governor, Shaktikant Das also highlighted certain challenges, including the changing world order and geopolitical environment, cybersecurity threats, capitalizing in harnessing new technologies.
The inflation growth balance is the most important task ahead of the Reserve Bank, and I am sure the team RBI under the leadership of the new governor will take it forward. Cybersecurity and its associated risks and threats, I think that is a big challenge for every authority, not only in India but all over the world, and particularly for a central bank. In the last 6 years and even earlier also, we have given a lot of attention to this issue of cyber security and dealing with cyber challenge, the cyber threats and challenges. That is a continuing task because the challenges are continuing, new challenges are emanating, and that will be a continuing challenge for every central bank in the world, including the Reserve Bank of India.
And Shaktikant Das, the 25th RBI governor, is set to demit office today, paving the way for Sanjay Malhotra, the current revenue secretary, to assume the position as the 26th governor of the RBI. And we'll go across to Mumbai. DD India Shama Mishra is joining us live from there. Shama, what were the major decisions taken during Shaktikant Das' tenure, you think, and what do you think will be the major challenge for the new governor, Sanjay Malhotra?
Well, Abhishek, let's start with the second question first. The challenges that lies ahead before the new governor, Sanjay Malhotra, who will be taking charge, who will be taking the office tomorrow. The major challenge would be restoring the growth and the inflation balance that is the biggest challenge that the RBI governor will have to face and will have to deal with it, because all these over the years and during all these MPCs, we have seen that a status quo has been maintained just to ensure that growth is also supported, and meanwhile the inflation is also under control. But as you already know, and as we are already aware, that the growth rate of India is where it's all right. The inflation target is not coming under the target range or the comfortable range of Reserve Bank of India. So that is the biggest challenge lies before RBI and a wider economy. Secondly, and you've already mentioned that the geopolitical tensions which are rising and the world order which is changing, and amidst that, how the Indian economy will pan out, how the relationships with other economies would do, that will be another major challenge. And Governor Shaktikant Das has already said that there's a reason and there's a need to stay agile and alert in this kind of situation. Apart from that, the technologies that are rising and with that the threats are also rising, the cyber attacks are also rising. To keep that in check, that is another issue that the Reserve Bank of India will be keeping a close watch. So overall, it's not something that any organization, the work is done. It is always work in progress. That is what the Governor Shaktikant Das has highlighted today. And these would be the new challenges before the Governor.
All right.
Apart from that, let's talk about Shaktikant Das. I'll just sum it up in 1 minute. We did see the NBFC crisis, which was the IL&FS crisis. Shaktikant Das, Governor, he dealt with that. Yes Bank, PMC, he dealt all of that. And the biggest challenge, and he came across that, was the COVID, and bringing back to normalcy was one of the biggest tasks that under his regime, the Reserve Bank of India has undertaken. So a lot of accolades that can be attributed to current governor, and we'll have to definitely see how the new governor
Sanjay Malhotra will take over as RBI governor from tomorrow. We'll leave it at that. Thank you for your input, Shama. Sports updates now. We'll start with tennis. Aryna Sabalenka received WTA Player of the Year award for the first time on Monday after winning 2 Grand Slam titles and finishing 2024 at #1 in the rankings. Sabalenka won the Australian Open in January and the US Open in September, along with 2 other titles this season, going 56-14 with nearly $10 million in prize money. She overtook Iga Swiatek for the top ranking in October. In other results, Emma Navarro was honoured as the most improved player. Paula Badosa was named comeback player. Lulu Sun was newcomer of the year, and Sara Irani and Yasmin Paolini were picked as doubles team of the year. And the World Chess Championship 2024 between Indian teenage challenger D. Gukesh and China's Ding Liren will restart on Wednesday after its final rest day. On Monday, Ding Liren hit back with victory in the 12th game right after losing the previous game to Gukesh on Sunday. In Game 11, Gukesh stunned the world champion Ding Liren with a breathtaking queen sacrifice, forcing him to resign on the spot. With 2 more games left in the World Championship, the scores are now tied at 6-6. If no player is leading in the overall score after 14 games, the fate of the World Championship will be decided by the tie breaks that are played in the faster time controls. Cricket now. South Africa have inched closer to a maiden berth in the ICC World Test Championship final with an impressive Test series sweep over Sri Lanka. The Proteas moved to the top of the World Test Championship standings with a triumph over Sri Lanka in the second test on Monday. They also won the first test against Sri Lanka and are now just 1 test victory away from earning their place in the final at Lord's next year. They will play a 2-match test series at home against Pakistan later this month. And as much of the Western world is heading towards the Christmas season, there are some cherished traditions, some of which are getting more expensive, like the chocolate Santa, a favorite treat for young and old. Now, Lars Holter is with Deutsche Welle and joins me from Berlin. Lars, what exactly is the situation there?
Well, thanks for having me. Well, first of all, here it is, the chocolate Santa, for all those that might not be familiar with this treat. It's a holiday staple in Germany, actually in all of Europe and some other parts of the world. Now, there's not much to it, just 100 grams of chocolate, but chocolate is one item that has gotten a lot more expensive over the last year. Now, here's one made by Swiss chocolatier Lindt, and that one currently costs 7% more than last year. Now, this one is made by Milka, which is part of Kraft Foods, and its price is up 25%. And then this one here doesn't have much of a brand to it. It's a store brand Santa, and it's up a full 50%. Now, that alone, of course, tells you part of the story. The branded Santas usually have a high profit margin priced in, so production cost makes up less of the total, and that keeps inflation somewhat in check. As for those cheaper ones, there's not much of a profit margin there to begin with. Their price is much closer to the production cost, and that has risen a lot. Now, because all this inflation comes from mainly one reason: the cacao harvest wasn't too good as of late. A ton of cacao was $2,500 a year ago. Then the price shot up to $12,000. That's fivefold before coming down again to the current $8,500.
But Lars, also, how are retailers reacting to this situation?
Well, that's actually interesting. First of all, they've been ordering fewer chocolate Santas than last year, and they're working really hard to keep prices as low as possible, taking higher costs out of their profit margins then, and it's for several reasons. Customers have apparently shown that they're simply not willing to shell out more for their chocolate treats. Chocolate being apparently one of the many food items where Germans are used to very low prices, on an international scale at least, and where they're not much willing to compromise. It almost seems like many consumers don't understand why prices, especially for food, have to go up at some point. There is higher energy prices, base ingredients are more expensive, as is transportation. Then add to that higher wages as well. It's obvious that inflation has to hit groceries too. And then again, chocolate is not exactly part of an essential diet. It can be seen as a luxury product, or at least as discretionary spending. So that, of course, changes everything then.
All right, Lars, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for your inputs. And as the spirit of Christmas is in the air, it is evident in the festive lights adorning the streets and buildings of Nigeria's Lagos. Illuminations at various locations in Lagos were lit up for the holiday season, and residents came to enjoy them. The Christmas decorations seen at major locations in Lagos will continue through until mid-January. And India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati had recently launched Waves, entering the field of OTT platform. Waves provides a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you also want great content for free, then download Waves today. Alright, that's all we have in this edition of News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.